Did you see the eyes?
Yeah, there's been an accident.
You didn't see it, did you?
See what? What did you see?
What do you do when someone comes into your office and tells you they saw this in their backyard?
Who showed you this? Last night, I saw something that I cannot describe. What happened to my wife? I need to know what this is. Do not be afraid. Something terrible's gonna happen. Whatever brought you there to die.
The Mothman Prophecies is a 2002 supernatural horror mystery movie directed by Mark Pellington, starring Richard Gere, Laura Linney and Will Pattington. The movie is based upon the 1975 book of the same name and loosely based on the real events that took place in Point Pleasant. The film follows John Klein, Richard Gere's character, who arrives in Point Pleasantly unexpectedly one night while driving through the night to get to his destination across state. During his first night in Point Pleasant, he encounters Gordon Smallwood for the first time, Will Patterson's character. Gordon is very annoyed and surprised to see John, and he threatens him with a gun. John is, of course, very confused, not sure what's going on because this is his first time meeting the man, so he thinks he's naturally insane. Luckily, the local police sergeant Connie Mills, played by Laura Linney, arrives to defuse the situation and then takes John Klein into town. The next day, John goes back to find out who has been knocking on Gordon's door, and of course, no one turns up that night. Although curious by the strange events taking place in Point Pleasant, and so he asks Connie to help him investigate further. It is during his investigation that he starts to become obsessed with the creature known as Mothman, that several eyewitnesses have encountered throughout Point Pleasant. He becomes obsessed because this Mothman creature seemingly has a connection to his dead wife, who died 2 years prior at the start of the movie. She too was also drawing Mothman pictures shortly before her demise. As the film progresses then, Gordon starts to be able to predict disasters that take place, and more strange phenomena form throughout the town, including a mysterious stranger who seemingly calls and can predict the future, known only as Ingrid Cold.
Where's my watch?
In your shoe. Under the bed.
As John grows more and more obsessed with the Mothman investigation, he begins to believe that some terrible disaster will happen in Point Pleasant, though is convinced it will take place on the Ohio River. John receives a mysterious message saying that his dead wife will call him at exactly 12 noon, back in Washington, his home. So of course he flies back there, waiting for his wife to call. But instead, Connie ends up calling him, inviting him back to Point Pleasant, reminding him that nobody should be alone on Christmas Eve. John eventually decides that yes, Connie's right, and decides to leave back to Point Pleasant. Just as he arrives back, the terrible tragedy that was predicted starts to take place. An event that actually did happen in real life. So let's talk about the cinematography and the style throughout the movie. Red light is used throughout the film to represent eyes, either from the Mothman creature itself, or just as some unknown presence stalking our victims. Also, the camera is constantly moving throughout the film, either stalking or hunting our victims, or reacting to the story as told throughout the eyewitness accounts. really adding to the overall atmosphere and feeling of dread and eerie nature of the film. The Mothman creature is never actually seen directly, only hinted at and mentioned through third-person accounts. This third-person perspective really adds to the performances for the acting throughout the film, which is phenomenal. All the supporting actors who give their performances throughout are really intense, really emotional and really powerful.
Glance out the window. At first, all I could see were these two red eyes. I kept looking at it. I couldn't stop. I've never had that feeling before, like I couldn't move. And then I guess it just took off.
The supporting actors are fantastic in this movie and really add to the believability that this actually happens. This is probably because the actual accounts in the film are based on real experiences that people from Point Pleasant actually experienced, although of course the film heavily dramatises the real events. I really enjoyed the mystery in the Mothman Prophecies. It is really unique, a very compelling film, well put together, really well composed, well paced, framed beautifully throughout. The cinematography is great, the setups are fantastic, the red lights used, the constantly moving camera, the use of sound design, sound equipment, recordings, everything adds to the overall atmosphere, believability and creepy factor. Richard Gere gives a wonderful performance as John Klein, and you really feel for him as a person. You can understand his motivations, wanting to reconnect to his dead wife, grieving, loss, but also desperate to solve whatever mystery is in front of him and capture proof that this creature actually exists. Overall then, I think The Mothman Prophecies is a fantastic movie. The only negative I would say is towards the latter half of the movie. The last 20 minutes do drag a little bit, so it does feel a little long in places. However, this doesn't take away from the overall atmosphere. The film remains very creepy and there's a great sense of dread throughout. Overall final thoughts then, I'm going to give this film a 9 out of 10 because the acting throughout is phenomenal. Both lead actors and supporting actors give excellent performances in this film. Cinematography is really well composed. There are excellently framed shots, constantly moving camera work that both enhance the experience, kind of give a feeling of dread and help the overall story. The special effects in this movie, although not front and centre, do really add to the film as well. The Mothman Prophecies then is definitely worth your time. It's a movie you can watch over and over again just because the mystery is interesting. The fact that these events actually took place makes it more compelling, and the film is generally really good. So that's everything then. Thank you for watching and have a good day.